you so much.
We have Professor Raghavendra sir, principal of our college. Sir, hearty welcome to FDP.
Thank you, sir. Thank
So,
you.
Yes. Anyway, we can start formal function because Dr. Sapna Madam has some technical issues meanwhile. So I request Dr. Shanti R. Madam to speak inaugural day regarding international, that is the national level FDP on research journey and IPR. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Professor Vishwanath. A very good evening to one and all present here. Robert J. Xavier said rightly that the heart and soul of good writing is research. You should write not what you know, but what you can find out about. The main purpose of research is to inform action, gather evidence for theories, and contribute to developing knowledge in the field of study. Understanding the research is important might seem like no-brainer, but many people avoid it like as though it is plague. Yet for those who like to learn, whether they are members of the research institutions or not, conducting research is just not important, but it is imperative. Since research is a tool for building knowledge and facilitating learning, it's a mean to understand issues and increase public awareness. It helps us succeed in business. It allows us to disprove lies and support the truth. It's a mean to find, gaze, and seize opportunities. It promotes confidence in reading, writing, analyzing, and sharing valuable information. It also provides nourishment and exercise to our mind. Keeping this in mind, the Commerce and Management Department of Dr. NSCM First Grade College has come up with the right theme for this 5-day faculty development program as the research journey and IPR. It covers various important topics wherein the department has invited renowned resource persons starting from transformative research for more societal impact to copyright, plagiarism, and ethical issues in research, going through ROL, statistical tools, writing the research paper for Scopus and UGC. When it comes to writing research paper for Scopus and UGC, it definitely reminds all of us working in higher education institution that getting a paper done, writing a paper and getting cited in UGC or Scopus Index journal is so very important these days that every one of us are at it. But are we really getting into the right path? Are we doing as a proper research? What is it we are doing? Are we following the right thing? This is just a baby step to take all the audience towards the research journey and make them understand, look, this is how you have to do, and this is what you shouldn't do. That is where comes the ethics in research. Starting with Dr. Sapna's lecture today, we will be ending with Dr. Farhadiba's topic, research-related topic, and that will be basically on copyright, plagiarism, and ethical issues in research, which is most important. I understand very much that every professor, every researcher is nowadays in the rat race of getting the paper published. But what are the various ethical ways, how you should do, what you should do, plagiarism check, how to go for it, not having more than 5% plagiarism, give the proper citation in your paper, proper recognition to the person from where you have taken it out. All such things are equally important as per me. And having experience in this field, I would like to request all the participants, all the audience who have gathered from across country, since I was told that there is an overwhelming response of 240 plus participants for this particular webinar, particular series of the research-related topics. I appeal to all the researcher, young researcher, the budding researcher, to keep this research ethics in their mind when they start their research journey. I very much find to recall the sayings given by an American chemist, physicist, rather an engineer and Nobel laureate who was given the Nobel Prize in 1932, Irving Langmuir, that train yourselves, the most important. Do not wait to be fed knowledge out of a book. Get out and seek it. That is the most important. Make explorations, do your own research work. No copycat, no copying anywhere. Train your hands and your mind. Become curious. Invent your own problems and solve them. You can see things going on around you. So inquire, not enquire. I hope we understand the meaning between the two. Inquire into them and seek out answers to your own questions. And I'm sure this 5-day FDP, this research journey, will definitely help all the researchers over here, all the teachers over here to come out, or it will help you to find the solution of your problems in the right way. I take this opportunity to congratulate the Commerce and Management Department of Dr. NSAM First Grade College and IQAC to come up with such an important and most wanted topic of this day, of this era, rather, I should say that, for coming up with such a kind of topic, and congratulate all the participants and wish them a very happy, productive, and learning sessions on all the 5 days of this FDP. I also thank organizers to give me this opportunity to share my views on this day as inaugurating the 5-day research journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Now I request the principal sir invite today's resource person, Dr. Sapna madam. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Vishwanath sir. Dr. NSAM First Grade College, Bengaluru, in association with Internal Quality Assurance Cell, we are conducting national level faculty development program on research journey and IPR. So it's given me immense pleasure to welcome you all for this great evening. So it's a 5-day national level faculty development program. So on behalf of Dr. NSAM FGC, all my staff and my students, I welcome Dr. Sapna S, Head of the Department, School of Law, Christ University, Bangalore, for this program. I welcome you, madam. I welcome the IQAC coordinator, Professor Bhavya, to this particular program. I welcome you, madam. I welcome
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Shanti Iyer, the advisor for Dr. NSM FGC. Welcome
you,
you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
I welcome the program coordinator, Professor Vishwanath S. for this program. Welcome you, sir. I welcome each and every individual faculty members from different college of the nation. Okay, so for this great day and 5 days FDP program, I wholeheartedly on behalf of Dr. NSAM First Grade College, a unit of NITE Education Trust, welcome you all for this great evening. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you, sir. It's welcome. Thank you so much, sir. Now, we have today Dr. Sapna, who is the eminent person and a great personality who has a wonderful experience in the research. So I request Professor Punit Kumar to introduce today's resource person, Dr. Sapna madam. Over to Punit Kumar. Quickly introduce. Professor Punit Kumar, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Hi, I'm Punit Kumar HS, an assistant professor of Department of Commerce and Management. It's my privilege to introduce today's chief guest, Dr. Sapna S. And Dr. Sapna S is associated with Christ University as head of the department and professor of School of Law. And she also worked as a former dean at the President's University. Dr. Sapna S has been authored many books and published many research papers and articles in national and international journals. She also conducted many consulting work towards the project and also other regarding the projects. And today she has been with us with the topic of transformative research for more societal impact. Behalf of NSAM, I welcome you, ma'am, and it's my great pleasure to introduce. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Punit Kumar. So now definitely we can start today's session. Over to Dr. Swapna, madam. Please carry on. Over to you, madam.
Dinesh, you can unmute, madam. Dinesh.
Sir, doing it, sir, doing it.
Yes. Yes, so just a minute. So today's resource person has excellency in research methodology, and she has selected the concept called transformative research for more societal impact. So definitely we can utilize today's resource person's proficiency. Over to Dr. Sapna, madam. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. A warm good evening to all of you. Dr. Shanti Iyer, the advisor, Dr. Bhavya, the IQAC coordinator, and Dr. Vishwanath for so warmly coordinating with me. Today, the topic that I have chosen and what I'm going to be discussing with all of you is going to be transformative research for societal impact. Could we have the PowerPoint up on the screen so that it is easier for all of us to take a look at? So let me just introduce this topic to you. So we are looking at research and we are looking at a transformative research. So why are we looking at a transformative research? Because ultimately we are looking at a research which is going to have some kind of an impact to the society. It is going to get some kind of a benefit and an advantage to the society. So that's the reason why we're going to be having this discussion where it is called transformative research for societal impact. So let's just take a look at this and then try to understand what is this transformative research for societal impact. I'm just waiting for a moment. Yes, so here it is. So let's go to the next slide. And here you see on the slide onto your left side. So let's move it a little bit. Let's just scroll it down and yes. So just take a look at it. Here you see on the left side, there is an image. So do all of you recognize what is this image? This is the image of an ivory tower. So we generally use it even colloquially saying that, oh, they are sitting in an ivory tower. He or she is there in an ivory tower. What is the meaning of ivory tower? The meaning of ivory tower is when somebody is doing something in a watertight compartment. When somebody is working in silos, it is called to be in an ivory tower. So I'm going to be introducing this to tell you where is the gap in research and academia today. Just take a look at our research. I'm a person of law, so it is perfectly fine for me to be doing something which is in the form of a legal research. You are a person of botany, so it is perfectly okay for you to be doing something in the field of botany, in the field of science, in the field of pure science, in the field of physics, or in the field of mathematics. Now, that is where we are talking about the ivory tower. What do these kind of research lead to? These kind of research, no doubt, is going to lead to a wealth of data and knowledge. So you could have a lot of things about physics. You could have a lot of things about pure science. You could have a lot of research where I'm only going to be speaking about review of some law and statute. But the point is that it is not going to give anything in the form of transformative effort. It is not going to support anything in the form of transformative research. So what kind of research is this? This is the kind of research which is pedantic. So what is the meaning of pedantic? These are the things which will just gather dust, which looks good when it is kept in the wardrobe, but for that, it is not going to help in any way. I could give research which could be the most beautifully descriptive and conceptual research. Say, for example, my domain is international commercial arbitration. So I could speak or I could write papers and research on what is the meaning of conflict of law. Now, or I could do something on, say, for example, what is the meaning of a crime scene investigation, which could be so descriptive and it could be very analysis because I could throw in a few case laws here. But the problem with these kind of wealth of knowledge or the wealth of data is that it is going to have very less practical value. Now, what do we mean by very less practical value? These are the kinds of the research which is not going to affect a common man, which is not going to affect a society. How can a common man really be bothered about a crime scene investigation? Or how can a common man really be worried about something on a pure science or something on a botany, which is really not going to help him in a day-to-day world, which is not going to help him in a day-to-day affair? So it is going to have very less societal implication and very less societal value. Now, what happens when these kinds of research are there? At the end of the day, probably we are not going to read our own research paper. Forget about anybody else reading your research paper. Now, definitely, we are going to struggle for publication because that is something I'm sure all of us have been hearing day in and day out. And it is going to have absolutely nothing in the form of, it is going to have nothing in the form of the extramural research. Now, these are going to be the bad effects of these kinds of research. So what is important? So where is this gap? What is the kind of the gap that we are actually trying to find? What is the gap that we are trying to unplug? So therefore, the gap that we are trying to unplug is something that we are looking for in the form of a transformation. So can we move to the next slide so that we can just have a look at it? So how are we going to plug this gap? How are we going to say that this is the kind of the research that is important to me? So we are looking at something which is in the form of a transformation. So what do we mean by transformation? What kind of transformation are we talking about? What kind of research are we looking at? So what do we mean when we say we are looking at a transformative research? So what are we talking about and what do we mean by a transformative research? Now, when we speak about a transformative research, basically just look at the next slide. There are three very important points about transformative research. There are three very important things about how we are going to introduce transformative research. The first thing about a transformative research is that now this is a research which is going to contribute to solve some societal problems. So can we move to the next slide? So this is a research which is going to help us to solve societal problems. And how is it going to help us to solve societal problems? Because it is characterized. The essence of this research is that here is something that is explicit in where I'm getting involved and I'm getting the stakeholders involved. That is the first point here. Now, the second point is going to be, now the aim of this kind of a research is that I'm going to promote a process of change. I want to look at some kind of change where I'm going to involve the stakeholders in this process. And the third important thing about this kind of research is that this is a research which is very much important for me to be socially robust and for this knowledge to have sustainability. Now, just take a look at these three sentences on the screen and tell me, are we able to find three key action words in all these 3 points? So just take a pause, just wait for a minute and see from these 3 sentences if you are able to find out just 3 action words. Something which you're going to go in for knack. You must have been hearing this day in and day out. So just see and tell me, are there 3 action words you're able to look at this? Just tell me 3 action words. Can you just put it up in the chat box? Are you able to find 3 action words? I'm not able to see the chat box. So just let me know if you're able to see the 3 action words. Otherwise, let me just go on to what are the 3 things and maybe we can relate it later. So let's see what are the 3 things here, okay? We'll go to the next slide and then you'll be able to see those 3 things. Now, did you see When we began with telling what is the meaning of transformative research, we said transformative research is something which solves societal problems. That means what? We are doing a research which is not just a review of something. We are doing a research which is not just an analytical description of something. It is not just, it is not just something which has a pedantic value, but this is a research which is going to solve societal problems. So what does societal problem mean? There are two very important things. If I'm going to solve something in the society, maybe because it's a public health issue, maybe because it is a gender equality issue, like say, for example, menstrual hygiene, or say, for example, it is an access to justice issue, or anything, any issue which the society is concerned with, or any issue which the people actually, it has to reach the people. So that becomes a very important outreach perspective. What is the second most thing about a society? Just imagine a society. A society has so many perspectives to it. A society has a legal perspective to it. A society has a psychological perspective to it. It has a scientific perspective to it. There are so many different things about a society. So once you say it is a societal thing that you're going to solve, you will understand that it cannot remain in silos. We cease to be in an ivory tower. We cease to think that we are in watertight compartment. I cease to think that I'm just a lawyer, and I will understand that I should be a person who's going to get law into the society. So I will be thinking about women. I will be thinking about society. I will be thinking about gender equality. And then I might be thinking about the Constitution of India. So when we think about societal problems, there are two very important things to it. One is going to be the outreach. The second one is it is going to become transdisciplinary. So no longer are we there in just one discipline. We have moved across discipline. So therefore, a sociology department and a law department can do something together. A sociology department and a science department can do something together. Now, say, for example, for a science, it could be about forensics. But this forensics is something that is going to help the people in crime. So it can have a sociology, it can have a law, and then it can have a science. So that is how it can become transdisciplinary. What is the next thing that you were able to find? If you saw in that definition, and when we said, what is the meaning of transformative research? There is the third line. And the third line says, in this way, transformative research generates socially robust knowledge needed for sustainability transitions. Now, tell me, haven't you been hearing all these three words on and off, particularly when you sit down to do your IQSC work? When you sit down to do your documentation, when you speak about NAC, don't we hear this so very often? So we hear about outreach, we hear about multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary, we hear about values and sustainability. What does NAC speak about values? When NAC speak about values, if you remember, it speaks about cutting edge values. In cutting edge values, what does it say? It speaks about gender, it speaks about human values, and it speaks about sustainability. So did you see, when we are speaking about transformative research, we are not doing research only for research's sake. You're not doing research because it can get into a publication, it can get into a UGC care, it can get into a Scopus or a Web of Science. But rather, when you're doing transformative research, you are taking all these three into consideration. And how can this kind of research not be published? How can this kind of research not lead to bigger things, which I'm just going to be explaining in just a little while from now. So let's move on to the next part of it. Now, we spoke about transformative research, but how is this transformative research possible? Can we have examples of transformative research? And at the end of the day, because I know that this is an IQAC hosted program, are we all not interested that at the end of the day, this should serve the purpose for which we are invited, for which we are sharing our experience and knowledge? So what is the first kind of example that we see? The first kind of transformative research can happen in this way. It is called participatory action research, or PAR, as it is known by its acronym. Now, what is the meaning of participatory action research? I'll just give you one example. I'm a part of a consultative project with the Bureau of Police Research and Development. Now, through this, I'm involved in two consultations. One is going to be on integrated center. The other one is going to be on mobile forensic ones. Now, as a part of this integrated center or the Saki center, we are doing a participatory action research. What happens in a participatory action research? We know that there is some center. We know that this center has been established by the government of India. We know that we have to conduct an impact analysis of this center. But then how will you do that? Unless you participate, unless you go there, unless maybe you spend about 5 days knowing how this process go on. You have some people who are your research assistant who do the data collection there. How will you know about it? It is not possible to know about the process. So that is the reason why participatory action research is one kind of transformative research. So what happens in a participatory action research? There is a collaborative approach. So what is the collaborative approach? As an academician, I'm going to collaborate with a government agency. I'm going to collaborate with a department of government. And then I'm going to do an active research. I'm going to involve all these stakeholders as a part of this. So maybe to do this research, I'm going to go to the police department. I'm going to go to the NGO. I will go to that center itself. Whoever are the stakeholders, everybody will actively participate in that. So just take a look at it. So therefore, my research is going to address social issues. But how is it going to address social issues? I can't address social issues if I'm just going to go by the books. I can't address social issues if I'm just going to do a literature review. But I can address a social research only when I get into the action, only when I get into the field, and then I understand how these things work. So just take an example. There is a PAR project, that means participatory action research project. Say, for example, it focuses on sustainable agriculture. Now, sustainable agriculture is something that is very important, isn't it? It is important not just for a farmer. It is important to me as a researcher. It is important to you as an academician, to you as a researcher. It is also very important for a policy maker. For the law department, it is very important. Or say, for example, for the Department of Agriculture, it is very important because they have to take your inputs to make the policy. So that is how you see that this is one example of a participatory action research. Let's move to the second example. Now take a look at the second example. Now, second example says there is transdisciplinary research. So what is the second thing about this? The transdisciplinary research. Now, in a transdisciplinary research, this is what happens. Now, it goes beyond the traditional disciplinary boundaries. Now, you can't address, you can't address the societal issues. Like we began this research by saying that if I sit in an ivory tower, if I say I'm a scientist, I will not look at law. I'm a lawyer, I will not look at society. I'm a sociologist and I have got nothing to do with science or law. So if I'm going to be traditionally bound by these boundaries, I will never be able to address complex societal challenges. Because take a look at it, if I'm going to deal, let us consider very simple societal challenges. Say, for example, women till today suffer from domestic violence. Now, if I'm going to be looking at a research of domestic violence, which is a very important societal challenge, will I be able to look at it unless I try to understand the gender perspective to it, unless I'm able to understand a trauma perspective to it, unless I'm able to understand, the sociological implication of this domestic violence? Now, we were doing this one research where we were trying to understand. Now, domestic violence is something that affects all women. It could be an educated woman. It could be an uneducated woman. It could be an employed woman. It could be an unemployed woman. It could be a woman who is in her 20s who has just got married, or a woman who has been married for about 15 years and who may be in her 40s. Now, we were trying to understand, why do women across sections still stay in such kind of a toxic relationship? Now, if I have to do a research like that, understand, I can't think just like a lawyer. I have to think from a psychological perspective. I have to think from an emotional perspective. I have to look at an NGO. I have to speak to a police. Only then this will come together. And that is where we are looking at a transdisciplinary research. So if I'm going to say that I want to do a transformative research can never be possible unless it is transdisciplinary in its nature. Let's move to the next slide. So the next slide says it is a community-based participatory research, which is also called as CBPR. What is a community-based participatory research? Now, community-based participatory research is an approach that involves the community members as equal partners. Now, say, for example, if I'm saying that I want to do a research about public health in a rural area. Now, say, for example, now very recently, ICSSR has announced a grant, which is a small grant. Now, in that, one of the thing is Jan Aushadhi. So Jan Aushadhi refers to public health and how, people have actually taken the public health system, whether it is in terms of the COVID times, or how have they taken, now say, for example, certain public facilities that are given to the people. Now, if I'm going to take up this ICSSR research, then if I'm going to take it up as a community-based participatory research, what will I do? I will probably go to the rural areas. I will use the Anganwadi system. I will use, those people like Panchayat people. I'm going to make use of all of them, or I'm going to make use of the health, dispensaries. I'm going to go to the public health dispensaries. I'm going to go to the government health dispensaries in order to understand how this healthcare that is provided by the government is really being used by the people. Now, say, for example, there is this one thing in the villages during the course of our research that we found, where maternity benefit is given to the women. So when I'm saying maternity benefit, I don't mean, the maternity benefit in workplace. I'm not speaking about the leave, the maternity leave that is given, but rather this maternity benefit is that where a woman who's in the family way is given some provisions through the government. So she might be getting some lentils, she might be getting bread, or she might be getting eggs. So this is in the form of a public health system that is given to her. So if I'm going to do a research on how this public health is really being utilized by the woman, now does it really have an impact? Is it really being utilized? Understand that I will never be able to do that if I'm going to do just the literature review. So I have to do a community-based participatory research. In a community-based participatory research, who are all the people who are going to be a part of this research? Not just me as a researcher. I will have the Anganwadi who's going to be a part of me. I will have the public health system which is going to be a part of me. I'm going to be having an NGO which is going to be a part of me. Together, we will try to understand that this is how this particular scheme by the government is useful, it has an impact, or it does not have an impact. So that is what is the meaning of community-based participatory research. We will move the next slide, which is called action research. So what happens in an action research? I think the name itself tells everything. What is the meaning of an action research? Action research, we call it as a cyclical process. Why do you call it as a cyclical process? Because it completes that loop. There is a research, there is an action, so therefore there is a change. So do you see? It is a cycle, it is a loop, and it completes that loop completely. Research, what is the use of research? What is the use of findings? What is the use of recommendations if your findings are not used? Like I told you right from the beginning, it will just remain gathering lot of dust in a wardrobe, in a closet, which is not going to be of use to anybody. But rather, if you involve in that kind of a research, which is going to bring about some kind of an action, this action is going to bring about some kind of a change. Do you see that you have completed the cycle? You have completed the loop. And that is the kind of research which is our responsibility as academicians to do to the society. It is a give back to the society, and understand it not just helps you in a professional development, it also helps you in your personal development. Because it is only when you go to the field, you understand what are the real problems. It is only when you get to see the society, you understand that, oh, this is how sustainability should be looked at. This is how environment should be looked at. This is how climate should be looked at. This is how waste management should be looked at. Or this is how a lake conservation should be looked at. You understand all those things, not just by reading the books, not just by seeing the literature review, but when you get into action. And whatever you research ultimately should help the society. Otherwise, what is the use of all the research that we get involved and we do? Let's move on to the next slide. And this next slide, I'll tell you, I'm sure all of you will be able to relate to this very quickly. So let us see what is this next slide. So in the next slide, you have seen, it says that let's come to NAC and let's speak about the NAC criteria. I basically want you to take you all to these 4 metrics. There are other metrics also, but I have just concentrated on these 4 metrics. Metric 3.7.1, metric 3.3.3, metric 3.4.3, metric 3.2.1. I'm sure all of you understand that the criteria 3 is always, it is like the soul of NAC, because your research gets into this, your publication will be in this, your consultation will be in this, your extramural grants will be in this, your collaboration will be in this. It is the soul of any academician. It is the soul of any institution. And understand, when you read these 4 metrics, don't just read it, just because it is a documentation purpose or it is a NAC criteria or because you have to fulfill the NAC. Understand that this should be our lifeline. Because when you're an academician, when you're a professor, when you're a researcher, how can we be completing our duty if we don't get into collaborative activities, if we don't get into outreach activities, if we don't publish papers, if we are not able to get our funding? What is the use of being an academician? So look at these 4 metrics, not just as a NAC criteria, but something which should guide you, which should be your future plan and which should be your plan of action all the time. So let me connect it and tell you how transformative research can help you in all these 4 matrices. The first one is collaborative activities with other institution, research establishment, or industry. So that is what 3.7.1 tells us. So how can your transformative research help you in this? So like I was just telling you, the first mantra of transformative research is that it does not allow you to work by yourself. It says, do you want to do a transformative research? Go out of your zone. If you're a lawyer, you have to club yourself with a sociologist. You have to club yourself with a science person. You have to club yourself with a mathematician. You have to collaborate yourself with a person from economics department. So it says you just go out. You be collaborative. When you're collaborative, your 3.7.1 metrics get satisfied automatically because you're doing something that is collaborative. And when you say collaborative, don't just look at collaborative from across the departments. You can also look at collaborations that is international collaborations. And international collaborations today is a doable thing, is something that is at your fingertips, is something that is just a click away. And hasn't COVID taught us this? Use your online resources to the maximum. Reach out to people, reach out to research institutions and tell them that you're interested in doing a research. It can be a beautiful, collaborative, comparative analysis. I'll just give you one example. Now, I was doing this one thing which is called COIL, C-O-I-L. And C-O-I-L, COIL means it is collaborative, online, integrated research. So this COIL project is that thing which I was doing with a Texas university in US. And you know what we did? Now, during the course of this research, we were actually doing a research paper. The title of this research paper was Insanity as a Defense in Law. So we decided, let us do a comparative analysis of this insanity as a defense in law, the way it is treated in US and the way that it is treated in UK. We started to write this paper. We started to do the literature review. And then we said, let us take it to a different level. Let us have a collaborative classroom. So in this collaborative classroom, we had people from Texas University and we had people from Christ University to be sitting in an online class. We gave them an internal assessment where there was a mix of students and they started to doing this research. So that is how there was one example of collaboration where the metric 3.7.1 was satisfied. So this is what we meant when we said that this is what is the meaning of a collaborative research. So this is how transformative research actually helps you to reach across to the universities, to reach across your boundaries, to reach across the research establishment. Now let's take a look at metric 3.3.3. What is 3.3.3? It is extension and outreach programs. How can your experience in transformative research help in extension and outreach programs? Like I was just telling you, anything that you do need to affect the society. It needs to reach the society. So when it reaches the society, that is where, just give me a minute. So that is where you say that your research is going to help the society. Now, how can it help the society? Say, for example, we have so many departments, we have so many government departments, we have so many state government departments. You have a Ministry of Women and Child, you have a Ministry of Fisheries, you have a Ministry of Labor. How can we be a part of this extension or outreach programs? Are you all aware? One of the major way that people do not get what is given by the government is because there is no access to official information for them. There is this one thing that is done by the Department of Labor, where construction workers, if they are registered, they will be able to get certain benefits that is given by the Labor Department. All these information is very comprehensively put up in the Labor Department website. But tell me, who has to take this information from the Labor Department website, give it to a construction worker who is there toiling from morning till evening, who cannot understand anything, but he will only keep toiling and he will only keep slogging and working hard. So that is where our transformative research can get into picture. Say, for example, if I have taken a transformative research, a simple transformative research which says impact analysis of this particular scheme by the Department of Labor for construction workers. All that I have to do is that get to the field, find out how many construction workers are there in my area, get them to register this, and then tell that this is how my research has impacted the society. Isn't it an example of extension and outreach programs? By this transformative research, are you not really helping the society? You got your data for research and your metric in 3.3.3 is also fulfilled. So these are the things which we see every day. There are people who do not have Aadhaar card. Can we not help them and tell them that this is the place where it can be done? There are people who are suffering from so many legal problems. We don't actually have to take them. We don't have to be lawyers and start advising them, and it is better we don't do it. The only thing that we can do is that there is a free legal aid service by the state government that is available. Can we at least not do an impact analysis and say that there is a free legal aid? Do you at least know about it or don't you know about it? Can't we do a research on analysis, or can't we do a research on awareness of this free legal aid program? How many of them know about it? How many of them do not know about it? Are we not able to get the data by this? So that is going to be a very important extension and outreach program. The next one is 3.4.3. Whenever I used to get to this metrics of 3.4.3, I used to have butterflies in my stomach, because that is where we all understand that it is, it is quite a bottleneck. It is not easy to have publications. It is not easy to have research publications. research papers, your manuscripts published. And all of us understand that the gestation period in Scopus and Web of Science is quite a bit. It's going to be about 1 year and 1.5 years. And of course, to try to get it in a UGC Care journal is also not very easy. Now, how can I connect with transformative research and connect it with metrics 3.4.3? One beautiful way to do it is that when you're able to do a transformative research, understand you will do an empirical research. It is not just a review, it is an empirical research. The minute you say it is an empirical study, it is an empirical research, your likelihood of publication is definitely 70 times more than when you just do a review. That is how transformative research will help you in increasing your number of publications. The last one is going to be 3.2.1, which is going to be extramural funding. Extramural funding, again, let us say, it is again not easy to get an extramural funding. Any extramural funding from a big organization always looks at something which is going to impact the society, which is going to help the society, where you can get some kind of a change. That's the reason why in transformative research, I'm very comfortable of using the theory of change or the change theory. What is this theory of change? In theory of change, you can see the before and after. Now, say, for example, if I'm going to say, I'm going to give awareness about sexual harassment, then I'm going to include a theory of change. In theory of change, I can find out before the orientation, what was your understanding? After the orientation, what was your understanding? Can you see? I'm immediately able to get this data. And this data can be very transformative data, which can be a huge empirical data. So that is how 3.2.1 can be a very good way by which you can achieve through transformative research. So extramural funding, if you have just seen the extramural funding, you will understand all extramural funding is very, very empirical based. I don't think there's an extramural funding which will tell you it's okay if you do a review, it's okay if you do a literature review, just a review of things and then do it. I have not come across any extramural funding like that. All extramural funding tells it is something, it has to affect the society. Maybe it is something that is women specific because it is gender. Say, for example, SVRI, that is which is by a Swedish organization. It is called Sexual Violence Initiative Research, which is by a Swedish organization. That is a gender perspective, which is only looking at sexual violence. Or, or say, for example, the one that is now released by the British, this one, that is also totally, that is going to be, societal oriented. So like that, you see that when we have the transformative research mindset, when we look at everything from the lens of the transformative research, it is going to have all these important advantages. And for me, the immediate advantage that I'm able to see is that 3.7.1, 3.3.3, 3.4.3, and 3.2.1. So these are going to be the immediate advantages that we are able to see. So let's move on to the next one. So in the next slide, you'll be able to see. So what is this whole transformative research? The whole transformative research is about a concept called transformatism. And what is transformatism? What happens in transformatism? What are the things that you're going to, what are the keywords that you're going to use in transformatism? Ontology. What is ontology? Ontology understands that everything is about social positioning. What is the meaning of social positioning? Say, for example, you take a very basic research about how many women go to work. So when you're doing a research on gender workforce or women workforce, if you want to do a research, understand that this has lot of connection with social positioning. Now, women are not homogeneous in their nature. All women are not one and the same. So there is a woman who's educated. Now that intersects with, are you a Dalit woman? That intersects with, are you a disabled woman? So these are the kinds of the things which gender takes different forms. So ontology speaks about social positioning. What is your social positioning in the society? A marital status can be a huge social positioning to a woman. Whether she will get a job, she will not get a job, it can be a huge thing. So that is how social positioning can be very transformative. Or axiology. What is axiology? Axiology is about cultural norms. So that is why in that research that I was doing with the University of Texas, I was telling you, we were trying to understand culturally how are we different. So the culture of the East is different from the culture of the West. The culture of the West is different from the Japanese culture, is different from the Chinese culture, is different from the culture of the Nordic countries, is different from the culture of the Arab countries. It is very different. So how culture is very important in anything, in your work, in your human rights, in your social justice, everything, it is different. Epistemology is a very important concept which tells that how am I going to use all these different methodologies and make it? How am I going to use a particular methodology? So epistemology basically is about the methodology. It is very focused on the kind of the methodology that you're going to use. Say, for example, are you going to be using a gender-specific methodology? And for gender-specific methodology, are you going to be using a qualitative methodology? So it is going to be very methodology-focused. And then in transformatism, we always use the mixed methods. So we don't say we are going to use only the qualitative methods. We are going to use only the quantitative methods. It is going to be a mixed methods which the transformatism is going to help us in. So with this, we have understood that when we do research, so what should be the takeaway for us? The takeaway for us from this session, with a little bit of the sharing that I was able to do with all of you, thanks to your organizers for coming up with a platform like this, and something which I find it truly transformative is that there are certain takeaways. Research should never be done only for research sake, only for literature review sake, only for knowledge sake, because it is not going to be of any use. Research is going to be of some kind of use only when it is going to help the society. And when it is going to help the society, how is it going to help you? It is going to help you personally. It is going to make you a better person when you go to the society. It is going to help you professionally. Like we were just saying, I can get my consultancy, I can get my research project, I can get my publication. So definitely it is going to help me professionally. So when I'm doing transformative research, what are the things that I could probably keep in mind? I'm going to keep the culture in mind. I'm going to keep the social positioning in mind. I'm going to keep the different kind of methodologies. And most importantly, it will help me to collaborate with other researchers. So I can have somebody from economics to be a part of it, because I'm going to understand about economic empowerment of women. Or I'm going to get a lawyer to be a part of the research because I'm going to understand about the legal advocacy part of it. I'm going to get something from the psychology background because I want to understand what is the woman's psychology, what is the woman's sense of emotion. So like this, I'm going to do something that is going to be transformative, something that is going to be multidisciplinary. So we'll go to the last slide. The last slide is a most important slide because this is a slide where I'm just going to tell a huge thanks to all of you. And when I'm going to tell thanks to all of you, I'm just going to take a moment to apologize very deeply for that initial technical, glitch that was happening. It is now 6:01, and the organizers had told me that my session is going to be till 6 o'clock. But I'm happy to take any questions that you have. And thank you so much once again for giving me this opportunity. This is very close to my heart, and I really enjoyed sharing this few experiences with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. It was a wonderful session. Really, let you work for the society. Definitely, let you do the qualitative research with the transparency, with the collaboration with the different institutions, so that we can maintain quality in the research. Thank you so much. Now, if you have any questions, you can quickly ask. Just 1 minute. So this is the questionnaire sessions we have. If you have any questions, kindly you can ask us through using chat box only. No questions? Yes, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box, or you can use or FDP group. Later on, definitely, madam, I can solve any questions if you have any doubts. So now this is the time to say vote of thanks. I request Professor Bhavya madam to give vote of thanks. Over to Bhavya madam.
Thank you, Vishwanath sir. Good evening, everyone. It has been an honor to be part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the organization, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest, Dr. Sapna S., Head of the Department, School of Law, Christ University. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation to be part of this session. Let me tell you, it was a wonderful session, wonderful listening to you, your ideas and your thoughts. Thank you so much, ma'am. A wide round of applause to all and thanks to all the participants who made this event memorable one and taking your time off out of your busy schedule to be with us today evening. Thank you all for your gracious presence and making this event a grand success. Sincere thanks to our principal, Professor Raghavendra sir, advisor Dr. R. Shanti Iyer ma'am, and various heads of the departments and organizers for making this event a beautiful and a knowledgeable session. And my dear colleagues who have joined us for this program, for your valuable guidance and support. Thank you one and all for extending your support for making this event a successful one. Thank you one and all. Vishwanath sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. So on behalf of our college, so I would like to say thanks to each and every participant who have joined. And in the initial stages, definitely there was a technical problem. Extremely sorry. So tomorrow onwards, definitely we can be started on time, in time. And thank you so much, Professor Bhavya madam, giving an opportunity. Behind this show, there are three persons: Professor Raghavendra sir, principal, advisor, Dr. Shanti Iyer madam, Professor Bhavya madam. So you have supported me immensely. Definitely, thank you so much. Dr. Sapna madam, thank you so much. Definitely, we have understood what exactly the meaning of a transformative research. Definitely, have to work for the society, have to do the qualitative with the collaborative with the different institutions. Then finally, I would like to say to all the participants that have sent feedback form in the chat box, so kindly you can fill your feedback and give your precious feedback. Thank you so much. I'll remind. You can leave. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Vishwanath sir.
I'll remind. Thank you so much. Take care, all of you.